A Chinese student in Melbourne, Australia, is speaking out for freedom in China. But now her father is facing the consequences and has been threatened by Chinese police.
大家好，我是最后动物园，我是一名90后的社会行动者。
In an effort to tell her story in opposed China's totalitarian regime, she attended the 31st anniversary of the Tianamen Square massacre. To protect herself, she uses the name Zhu on Twitter. She used it to organize ceremonies, mourn Dr. Li Wenliang, and criticize the regime for suppressing Chinese people's freedom. Last year, she went to Hong Kong to support the city's pro-democratic movement. But in April, China's National Security Department discovered Zhu's identity. They called her to announce her so-called crimes and urged her to hand over her Twitter account and password. She refused. Next, the police contacted her father, demanding he come to the police station at midnight. They tried to force him to persuade Zhu to go back to China and surrender. Zhu is over 20 years old and has been living in Australia for 1 year. She first began to see the truth about the CCP when she was a child. In an online video, she recounted breaking through the internet firewall while she was in middle school. That's when she found information about the Tiananmen Square massacre and was left feeling shocked and deceived. That's when she first decided to do something about it.
I learned when I was a child that the Chinese Communist Party has done a lot of cruel things. I felt people around me were accustomed to the bad things, but I could not put up with it.
One of the many cruelties she learned about was forced organ harvesting. She says the organs come from Falun Gong practitioners or people who have been sentenced to death.
I had family members who worked in a hospital. It is true that doctors take organs from Falun Gong practitioners. Everyone knows that the source of the organs is a problem, but doctors consider it normal. They do not see it as an evil act, but it's really unacceptable for me.
In memory of the tank man, an unidentified Chinese man who stood in front of tanks as they tried to leave Tiananmen Square in 1989, she made a standing sign. Zhu says she believes young people are different nowadays than they were 30 years ago.
People who got involved in the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests felt that the fate of the country was on their own shoulders, and they must be responsible for the future of the country and its people. But the current young generation no longer feels that the country is their own. On the contrary, they feel powerless. They see themselves as victims.
She says it's important for young people to participate if they want to overcome the CCP's control.
In a totalitarian regime, anyone can become a minority and face persecution. People can only reject the feeling of powerlessness when more young people join together and participate in democratic movements with creativity and passion. That way, more like-minded people can be connected. They may one day overthrow the regime.